Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to TED Talks Ball. We got a special Wednesday afternoon edition, a special Behind Enemy Lines edition. It's obviously 49ers versus Lions NFC Championship game week. And I'm super excited to introduce WriterWrong. You may know him as @AnthonyWriter5 on Twitter and X. He's also, I believe, WriterWrong is the YouTube. The link to your YouTube channel is in the description of the show. But Anthony, welcome to the show, and thanks for coming on. And tell us anything you'd like us to know, anything I may have missed.
Yeah, I don't think you missed anything. I'm a Lions content creator. Been doing it for a couple of years. You mentioned it before the show. I was the Lions fan of the year a couple of years ago. I announced the draft pick of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Who turned out to be a pretty decent player for the Detroit Lions.
I'll say.
Well, it's a big matchup this week, biggest game of the year for both teams, and I think it'll be a good one. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the presence of Lions royalty here. This is pretty cool. So thank you for gracing me. Thank you to Zach Payotime, who put us in contact with one another. He's great. Even though he is a Rams fan.
Yeah, he's all right.
Yeah, he's all right.
But
I mean, I know I guess there's a little bit of bad blood between the Rams and Lions recently because they played Wild Card Weekend.
I guess. I don't feel that bad blood, really. The Rams have never bothered me. They've always been a team that I've liked for the most part. But yeah, they're not very happy with us right now. I don't know what the deal is. I guess that's what happens when you lose the playoff, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, there's that, and then I felt like there were some kind of questionable hits that went on, and not just the Higbee ACL, but before that, I felt like Puka, Kyron, Staff all kind of got little helmet to helmet.
That's fair. They got some hits, but it was not one sided. There were some hits by the Rams too that I'm seeing a lot on Twitter that Lions fans are going back and saying, "See, it happens both ways."
It's good to go back and be like, "Oh, well, if you're going to say that, then this."
Mm-hmm.
Because the Packers kind of said some of that about us.
Yeah.
About I guess there was an uncalled face mask, and I'm like, oh well, how do you think Debo left the game with the helmet to helmet?
Right?
The head injury was not, it wasn't a clean hit. I'll tell you that right now. So
no, the best.
It goes both ways most of the time, and that's all you can hope is that if that it's even, or ideally that there's none of it.
Yeah.
But there you go. So real quick, we got Jimmy Perez in the house. He's saying, "What's up, Ted?" And he says, "Hit the like button and subscribe." Yeah, it looks like we're streaming to both channels. So if you're on TED Talks Ball, make sure you get over to WriterWrong and give Anthony a like and subscribe. Same thing if you're on WriterWrong.
Yeah, come over here, subscribe.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Video, yeah, get all that going.
And then if you're watching on a browser, open up a second tab. You can watch us both at the same time. Get us all those watch hours. I'm kind of doing that myself so that I'm taking my own advice. But so it's going to be an interesting game. I was saying I don't think that either team will get blown out.
Mm-hmm.
I think even the 7 points that the 49ers are favored by is probably a little bit too much, especially if Debo's out. But even if Debo plays, I think 7 is a little bit much. I just think if he maybe 6 or 5 might be more fair. And then if Debo doesn't play, maybe more like 3 or 2 might make the most sense for this game. I think it's really going to come down to a big play by someone's offense or defense at the end to really separate these two teams, but we'll see.
Yeah, no, I think it'll be a pretty close game. I was working on a video earlier today that'll probably go out tomorrow, just breaking down the matchups on both sides of the ball. And the more research I did into it, the better I felt about the Detroit Lions. I know that's probably like a biased thing to say, but I do think it'll be a close game. I think that the Lions stack up fairly well against some things that the 49ers do well. I think that the Lions' rushing defense has been elite this season, and ideally they can slow down Christian McCaffrey. Probably not stop him, but slow him down enough to the point where they can make some plays on the ball and get off the field. And their defense isn't very, I would say the Lions defense isn't very good, but they've been a lot better over the last month to a month and a half, about 5-6 games. They've been a lot better. So I think hopefully they'll be able to at least keep the Lions in the game and hopefully, maybe make a couple big plays and turn the tide. So
Yeah, I mean, the Lions, like you said, well, Aiden Hutchinson's been playing really well the last 4 or 5 games. He's been on a tear, right?
yeah, 7 sacks in the
then you got,
last 3 games. Yeah.
there you go. And then, Jack Campbell, took a while to get going, but now it seems like he's getting going.
Mm-hmm.
So that's big. You got CJ Gardner-Johnson back, who's huge,
Mm-hmm.
I think. I felt like he was a huge loss when the Eagles lost him. And so a huge get for the Lions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has 2 picks in the last 3 games, so he's been pretty impactful.
Yeah, and it's not just that. It's sort of like the way he trash talks.
Yeah.
And he gets under people's skin.
Mm-hmm. It's a mentality thing for sure.
Draymond Green or Pat Bev type personality, to use some NBA references. But he's an irritant. Let's just say if he's on your team, you love him, but
he's not on the team.
Everyone else
so
hates
much.
him. Yeah, and I really didn't care for him when he was at New Orleans, but he wasn't much of a threat then. Then he went to the Eagles, and he was playing a lot better by then.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously playing really well now. So, yeah. And then I was just on with Ash from Roar of the Lions UK, and he was saying to watch out for Houston, who might be coming on as a defensive end to go on the bookend with Aiden Hutchinson, maybe.
Yeah, so James Houston was activated last week and didn't play. Lions typically bring people on pretty slowly from injury. They like to make sure you're 100% before you go back on the field. But no, James Houston I think can be a threat. He's a guy that had 8 sacks in the last 7 games last year. I think he had 3 pressures through 2 games this year without really being utilized very well, in my opinion. Aaron Glenn likes to do this weird thing with dropping linebacker, like pass rushers, edge rushers into coverage. He's done it with Hutchinson. He did it with our defensive tackles. He does it with everybody. It drives me insane. I hate when he does it. But he used James Houston a lot like that. And I think hopefully he learned a little bit and they won't use him quite so much on special teams where he got hurt. And when he comes back, hopefully he can be that same guy he was in 2020, because he was the second leading sack guy from the rookie class 2 years ago. He had more production than like Trayvon Walker, Kayvon Thibodeau, George Karlaftis, all those first round guys. He's a real threat. He's got some serious bend, kind of a Von Miller-esque play style where he gets so low to the ground around the edge. It's almost, you don't understand how it's physically possible for his ankles to bend like that. But yeah, I think if he's fully healthy, if he's got that bend back, if he's got that explosiveness, I think he can be pretty impactful, even if he only gets 15 to 20 snaps on defense.
Interesting. Yeah. And then somebody was saying that I guess you guys call him
Ifeatu, yeah.
Ifeatu, that he's been playing well as a safety as well.
That's a fun one to spell out, yeah.
CJ Gardner-Johnson, then obviously Kirby Joseph there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a lot to like on the Lions defense lately. What about boundary corners though?
I don't want to talk about them. They're not the best, I will say. I think Cam Sutton, I think he's more of a cornerback 2, being forced to play cornerback 1 role, which just doesn't end very well typically. I know, I'm trying to go back the last couple of weeks. I know in week 16, Justin Jefferson had 150, and then CD went for 200, and then Jefferson went for like 170, and then Puka went for 190, and then last weekend Evans went for 150. So boundary wide receivers have very much been our kryptonite this year, especially over the last 5 games or so. Cam Sutton, I just don't think is the number 1 guy. I think if he had a better cornerback in front of him and he was kind of marked up on those number 2 guys, it'd be a lot better. Unfortunately, our opposite cornerback is Kendall Vilder, who wasn't on the team until 5 weeks ago. He's, I guess, better than what Jerry Jacobs was. He's better than what Khalil Dorsey was giving us. He's been quite close to actually making a couple plays here and there, but I mean, it's like 1 good rep versus like 4 to 5 bad reps at a time. So the boundary cornerback's not great. I would expect that to be a really large area of focus this offseason, whether that be the draft, whether that be free agency. I would assume they go get a cornerback. I don't know if they're going to re-sign Mosley and hope that he stays healthy and draft somebody, or if they're going to go after a bigger net guy like Gilmore in the free agency or one of the loaded cornerbacks in this class. But It's not very good. I'll tell you that. Long story short, it is not very good.
Gotcha. So possible area of exploitation. I mean, I will say that when Lenore is at boundary, we're fine there. Obviously, same with Mooney Ward. But when Lenore bumps into nickel and we put in Ambry Thomas, we had some troubles with that last week against the Packers. He gave up three huge plays. I think the three biggest plays of the game are all against him. So some of it could be that he was out for hand surgery and that was his first game back. So rust, but also just, I don't know if his hand was 100% either. I'm hoping that's what it was, but seeing him struggle, since we picked him in the third round in the 2021 or third round comp, whatever. But, bottom line is we don't have a lot of confidence in him. We don't have a lot of confidence in Logan Ryan at safety.
Right.
Jair Brown filled in for Hufanga really well for a couple games or three. Then there's a couple where he started to look like a rookie later on. Then he got injured, and we haven't really seen him back in a full-time capacity since. So I think we'll see him. I think we're going to go back to Jair Brown. That's what I'm hoping we do, because I just think that even though Logan Ryan has more experience, I just don't think he has the physical traits left and the gas in the tank to make it happen, what he needs to do. So we'll see.
Yeah, I was a big fan of Jair Brown coming out of Penn State. I thought he was really good at turning the football over. I thought he had really good instincts, really good burst. I didn't know he got hurt. I didn't know that necessarily, but if he's healthy, I think he's a really good guy in the secondary to watch out for.
Yeah, I mean, he's a lot like Hufanga. They're like kind of like carbon copies of each other. They're both ball hawks. They're both big hitters. They're both great blitzers. They're both slow 40 times, but like you said, great anticipation. So they play fast.
Yeah.
They make some big hits, but sometimes they bounce off when they make the big hits. And so they're not great tacklers. And then, with ball hawks, a lot of times they get burned. So both of them can get burned pretty easily too. But they're kind of carbon copies of each other, other than I think Jair is maybe a little bit bigger and a little bit faster, but so similar. So similar that seeing them on the field, you wouldn't really know the difference. We got CarCast 49ers in the house saying, saying, how are you guys doing today? Yeah, we're better now that you're here, CarCast. And CarCast has his own YouTube channel, so everybody make sure to check him out.
Nice.
Give him a like and subscribe. We appreciate it. So, and then as far as 49ers on offense goes, people say like we're a pick your poison offense and all that. And I get it. I think we have the best group of offensive weapons in football. But what do you do against a poisonous snake? You cut the head off. So if you can pressure Brock, I mean, I know he's good against pressure. We saw the stats last week of like he and Jordan Love were both like number 1 and number 3 or number 2 and number 3 against the blitz and pressure. But still, nonetheless, you got to try and pressure him. And McKivitz is one way on the right tackle. And right guard has been an issue for us too with Spencer Burford. However, last week when I was writing my preview article, I was saying I was hoping that we would start our backup, John Feliciano, over Burford, and we did. Because I understand playing Burford. He's young. He hasn't fully, built up his NFL man body yet. So we really don't know what he can be. But now is not the time for development. Now is the time to get that W. And if he had played, that might have been the difference between us winning and losing last week. So in a really close game. So Feliciano is not as much of a weak spot, luckily, but I think McKivitz still is. And then, Purdy, there's a lot of talk of whether he's a franchise quarterback or not. I'll just say,
I think he is.
I think he is when it's dry.
Pretty good.
I don't think you can have a franchise QB that you can't play in the rain though, or that you worry about
That's
in the
fair.
rain like that. Yeah, I mean, because we saw it in Cleveland, and then after that, I remembered that I had been at the wild card game against the Seahawks, and it rained in the first half, and he struggled. And then the second half, the sun came out, ball got dry, field got dry, and he absolutely torched them. And as much as he torched them, it would have been worse if Ayuk hadn't dropped that one famous TD. I don't know if you saw it where he rolled left, rolled right. threw it in the
Oh,
end
yeah.
zone, and I dropped it. It would have been even worse if he held on. So,
Yeah.
worse for them, that is. And
Right.
anyway, so then I've been saying it all ever since the Browns game, and everyone's like, no, I don't know, I don't think so. And it's just crazy that we had like 11 games since the Browns game, if I recall, and 9 were outdoor stadiums and no rain during that whole time in like November and December and January. And all of a sudden it finally comes against the Packers.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he's a hell of a quarterback. But what was my point? There was a point I was going to try. Oh, here's the point. One thing we love about Brock Purdy, it's obviously not his physical traits because he only literally has one elite physical trait. That's quickness, because he's as quick as CMC. But, it's the mental stuff is what we love. He's a mental giant. One of those things, there's a whole laundry list of things we love mentally about Brock Purdy. One is poise. In other words, like when all hell's breaking loose, he keeps his focus downfield and he's able to complete balls where a lot of other quarterbacks would be distracted by what's going on around them. But a lot of those other quarterbacks that are distracted might stay safe or not give up a strip sack because they're paying attention to what's around them. And so it's like a two-sided double-edged sword, you might say, with Purdy. The poise is something we love, but it's something that kind of scares us as well too.
Yeah, and it's something I mean, you basically just described how Lions fans feel about Jared Goff. Like, good quarterback, when everything's working, it really works. And sometimes, with the elements especially, Jared Goff's not very good in the rain. He's not very good in the cold. He's not very good in the wind. Like, the elements hurt him a lot. And again, kind of like Purdy, Jared Goff is nowhere near as quick as Brock Purdy, but I think from like that mental side of the game that you talked about, I mean, he makes quick decisions. He makes good decisions. Since coming
Goff's taller and he's got probably
Goff is a little bit
bigger
taller,
arm,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
But I think since he's come from the Rams, I think he's gotten a lot better at the whole like dealing with pressure situation. He's a lot better against the blitz. He's a lot better with pressure in his face. He's not going to scramble and like roll out like Brock Purdy. He looks like a baby giraffe when he tries to run. He's not the peak of athleticism, I wouldn't say. But 9 times out of 10, he makes the right decision. He gets the ball out quick. He's confident in his guys. And I think the big thing with Jared Goff, especially, is if you can get him rolling in the first quarter, right, that second drive, if you can get him, some easy completions, kind of get him feeling himself, it's hard to get him off that track after that. But if you can kind of knock him off early and kind of do, sack him a couple times, get a pick on the first drive and rattle him really early in the game, it's also equally as hard for him to bounce back from that and bounce back to be the good quarterback that he can be.
There you go. Consuela in the house. She's saying, let's go Lions.
Welcome,
go
Lions, for sure.
Welcome, Consuela. And then Casey Smith is saying, why does Goff never throw deep ball elite quarterbacks do it? That's one thing Purdy got a lot better with this season was his deep throws. I never thought that he would be able to, but he threw them at a fairly high rate and a very high completion, the highest completion rate in the NFL for deep passes. So
yeah,
which Jimmy kind of did that too, in 2019, but it looked different this year. It just looked much more in control. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. When Jimmy G would go back, we'd all be like, oh, what's going to happen? Bad. And with Purdy, it's like, oh, what's going to happen? Good. You just get this so much more confident feeling, less high blood pressure watching Brock Purdy than with Jimmy.
Yeah. And well, just to answer the question about Jared Goff, I personally don't think Jared Goff throws a nice enough spiral to get the football very far. And as weird as that sounds for like an NFL quarterback, Jared Goff, his ball is not a very tight spiral. Like, it's always wobbling a little bit. And I think that does affect his deep ball quite a bit. He's hit it a couple times to JMO and it's been either behind him a little bit or it's been just a little bit underthrown. He's just not consistent. It's just never been a thing that Jared Goff has done really well. He's really, I guess deep ball is kind of subjective because I would say from like that 15 to like 25 yard, he's actually pretty accurate. But anything like 30 plus, like any real deep shot or any real bomb, he really just doesn't have it. Like the ball just always seems to come out a little short, a little weird, a little like sideways. And I've only, in the past 2 years, I've only ever seen Jared Goff hit 2 deep balls really, really accurately. And it was 2 years ago versus the Vikings, where he had that really nice bomb to Chark on the sideline. And this season in Dallas, where he had that really nice 60-yard throw to JMO. Other than that, I haven't seen Jared Goff hit a lot of deep shots in stride with good timing. I don't know if it's a chemistry thing with him and JMO, because that's who his primary deep shot is. I don't know if it's a chemistry thing just because they've only worked together for about 17 games at this point. I don't know if it's just purely an arm talent thing where he just can't get it there accurately enough, but it's not a perfect deep ball, that's for sure.
Well, part of it probably, I was just when you were saying that he didn't play well in bad weather, I looked up hand size, because that's one of my things with Purdy is he has 9.25 inch hands, and Jared Goff is 9-inch even, so a little bit smaller.
Jared Goff got small hands, yeah.
Yeah, so that could be part of it for sure.
Partially.
I mean, Purdy doesn't throw any like bombs, but he definitely can hit those like 40-yarders. And he does throw a really nice spiral, and he throws a very catchable ball, because it's not just the spiral, it's also the ball location that makes the ball catchable, because our drops went down dramatically this year. Like, it's something that has plagued the 49ers for years, is drops, especially Debo and Juwan Jennings. But even Ayuk has had more than you might expect for a really good receiver. And this year it dropped precipitously, and I think that is a lot due to Brock Purdy's throwing catchable, nice spirals, you know, in the right timing and location. Makes a big difference. But I didn't realize that about Goff. I thought he did throw deep balls better. I guess I was thinking back to like Rams Chiefs, you know, that.
Yeah,
remember that
he's not awful. Like, I wouldn't say he can't throw it. I just don't think that's like a top trait that he has. You know what I mean?
Yeah, interesting. Got Rick Diaz in the house. Welcome, Rick. Thanks for coming. Says Detroit are a good team. Okay, very good team. Give them respect. They are a very good team. Absolutely. You got to be very good to get here. And it's going to be a very good game on Sunday. I have zero doubts about that. There you go. It's going to be a good game. He's repeated himself 3 times. All right. Get it, Rick. There you go. Time for a W. Well, hopefully we'll see. As far as you know, I guess we've talked a little bit about Lions defense and Niners offense, but then, you know, as far as Lions offense against Niners defense, I think a lot of people have a misconception about the Niners D line, that it's some elite juggernaut. And I'm here to say that, you know, at least as of this season, we've been a little bit overrated and overpaid.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Hargrave and Eric Armstead are both kind of like half tackles. Eric Armstead is really great against the run, and he's not very good against the pass, as a pass rusher. And Hargrave's great pass rusher, but weak against the run. Bosa just hasn't been himself this year. He held out through OTAs, camp, and most of preseason. He didn't practice literally till the second to last practice before we flew out for the Steelers game, week 1 at. I'm still going to call it Heinz Field.
Yeah. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. So he just has not caught up to his 2021 and 2022 prowess in 2023. Maybe he will this weekend, but this would be a great time to do it, because obviously the Lions offensive line is super impressive even without Jonah Jackson.
Yeah.
And obviously you guys have great weapons with Amon-Ra, who you announced, Laporta. JMO is a good young and upcoming speedy receiver. Reynolds is the security blanket coming over from the Rams, who knew Goff and worked with him before, so they know each other. And then obviously, as Ash said in the last show, maybe the best backfield in the NFL, with Jahmyr Gibbs and blanking on the guy's name from the Bears,
David Montgomery,
Monty. Yes.
Monty, yep.
Yeah. So, and I would say the Niners are up there, as one of the best running backfields in the NFL. But honestly, we don't use Mitchell and Mason enough to really know this year. Mitchell's been really great whenever he's played in years past. He gets injured a ton, but he gets great production and never fumbles. But this year it's been just all CMC, and so I don't know. I can't say that. A lot of us wish we had seen more of our 2 and 3 backs.
Yeah. Just touch on the Lions offense. Like I said earlier, Jared Goff, when he's on, when he's hot, he's really good. But when he's off, he'll lose you football games. The offensive line, obviously, like you said, is great. Penei Sewell is an all-pro tackle. He's really good. I think last week PFF said he recorded the highest run blocking grade ever in history. So he's a pretty devastating run blocker. Frank Ragnow, despite being injured, is really, really good, and he's probably going to play. Graham's been really good. Taylor Decker was perfect last week in pass protection. I don't know who's going to play at left guard. I would assume Keto Owasiga, I think is how you say his name. He's played about 300 snaps for the Lions this year. He's not bad, but he's not great either. Like, he's a backup guard for a reason. Personally, I think I'm more worried about San Francisco's interior pass rush, just because that's where a lot of pressure seems to come from. I know Kenny Clark versus the Packers really got to Jared Goff. I know that they actually did a really good job versus Aaron Donald, but there were a couple of plays where he was one-on-one in the interior, and he got to Jared Goff. I feel really good about the tackles. Like, I know Chase Young and Nick Bosa are really good, but Taylor Decker and Penei Sewell are also really good. So I feel good about that offensive line matchup. Like you mentioned earlier, Gibbs and Monty, I personally think are the best duo in the league. I don't think either one of them is quite as good as Christian McCaffrey, but I think Jahmyr Gibbs is probably top 5. I don't know if I would say, like, obviously not better than McCaffrey, but I mean, there are some people.
I've got Gibbs and Aaron Jones from last week top 3. I think it's
there's a lot of people saying
I think those two are like right in the next tier. They're the only guys in the next tier.
So. Yeah, but I think Gibbs is a special player. I mean, he just is. I think will be the best back in the league one day, and he's probably top 3 right now at the very least as a rookie. Taking a look at the weapons, Sam Laporta is continued to be hurt, but I mean, was just as productive last week as any other week. I get 9 receptions for 50 yards. I mean, he's certainly feeling the knee. You can see it, but he's not going to let it stop him. He's probably still going to have 6-7 receptions against the Niners, and he's going to have his production. Amon-Ra an all-pro. He's, almost impossible to cover one-on-one. I think Jameson Williams could be a potential X factor in this game. Him and Jared Goff have been getting a lot of chemistry the last couple of weeks. He was injured going into week 18, I believe, and then kind of got off to a slow start in the playoffs. But before that, I know versus Dallas, he had a good game. Versus Minnesota, the first time he had a good game. Versus Denver, he had a good game. He was getting about 4 to 5 catches, 6 targets a game. He was starting to be really productive for the Detroit Lions, on top of being that deep threat, kind of working that intermediate game and kind of working a lot of the comeback stuff. So I think Jamo could be really good on the boundary. Khalif Raymond potentially is coming back, who is kind of a good 4th wide receiver, but more so as a kick and punt return kind of guy. He's quite good at that position. Obviously, Josh Reynolds is kind of an underrated guy. He had, I think, 80, 90 yards in the wild card game and a touchdown last week. So he's a guy that Jared Goff loves to go to. I think the 49ers defense is really good. I think their linebackers are probably the best linebackers in football, and I don't think it's particularly close after that core. Our Ravens are probably second. I still think there's a sizable gap between the Ravens and the 49ers linebacking core. You mentioned it earlier, the secondary for the 49ers, from what I've seen, is, I wouldn't say bad, but I wouldn't say is like as good as potentially their pass rush or their linebacking core or anything like that. I do think that St. Brown will have some opportunities. I do think that Reynolds will get some opportunities. Jamo will get some catches. Jahmyr out of the backfield, I think, is nearly impossible to cover just with his quickness and his burst. And I think him versus Fred Warner would be a really fun matchup in the open field just to see what happens, because they probably have one of the shiftiest running backs versus one of the best linebackers. So I think as far as the rushing attack, I think it'll be hard to rush versus the Niners, but the Lions also have, I think, the 5th best rushing attack in the NFL. So I think it'll be strength on strength. I think it'll be a good matchup. And honestly, I personally think the rushing attack for both sides is going to determine this game. I think how well Christian McCaffrey runs and how well Jahmyr Gibbs runs is going to determine who goes to the Super Bowl.
Well, any team that defends a run well, which the Lions do, has a good
Mhm.
advantage on the 49ers traditionally. A lot
Yeah.
of that was based off Jimmy G, but even with Purdy, all our pass plays, Brent DeWitt here was asking, how do you think SF will scheme against Hutch, Iffy, Branch, and others trying to pressure Purdy? And I think the way you do it is play action. But that means the run game has to be working.
Yeah.
Or at least you got to be running it. It doesn't actually have to be getting any yards, but you got to be keeping the defense honest with at least having rush attempts, so they crash down in the middle. But yeah, I mean, if we have to be a drop back passing team, our offensive line is not built for that. Kyle's playbook is not built for that. We are much more of a front running team that likes to build leads and then force teams to pass because they're in a big deficit. And that's why our run defense is overrated, because a lot of teams just couldn't run the
Don't
ball.
have the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah. So the number of attempts against was very low for us this season.
Yeah.
So
I had something in my head and I totally blanked on it just like as I was about to open my mouth.
I hate when that happens, but I'm sure it'll come back. Just try not to think too hard about it. But I mean, you were just saying you felt like whoever runs the ball the best will go to the Super Bowl. I think the Lions will run the ball better than the 49ers. I think we'll pass the ball better than you guys, though.
Probably. Their pass defense is not very good.
Yeah, exactly. And so it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I do think that some of the woes we had against the Packers were due to not wearing the right cleats in the rain. Our defenders were slipping around a lot, and there's no excuse for it because we're at our home stadium on our own grass. We should know which cleats to wear on which situations, but clearly we didn't. And even after it seemed like most of the defense had it figured out for a while in that game, Gibson had a big slip on the Packers' last TD, the TD pass from Love. So I don't know. Bottom line is it's going to be interesting. Hopefully it doesn't come down to special teams, because I think we both love our punters, and I'm not going to say hate our kickers. We like Moody, but we don't trust him. I think Moody will be fine long term. But again, it's that whole development versus, just go at somebody who's reliable.
Watching him at Michigan, he was so good. he
Yeah,
was
he
so
was
reliable at Michigan.
Yeah, I mean, that's what Harbaugh said, death, taxes, and Jake Moody.
Death, taxes, and Jake Moody.
Yeah, and, if you haven't followed that closely, it's kind of an interesting story this season. He was perfect until the Browns game. Then he missed 2 field goals. Famously, one of them was the game winner after Purdy, because people say, oh, Purdy had his first game-winning drive against the Packers, which isn't true, because he had one against the Raiders New Year's Day of 2023 last season, the end of the 2022 season. And then, he had one against the Browns, but Moody missed the field goal. So he's had 3. Well, I guess it wasn't a game-winning drive against the Raiders. He came back from a 10-point deficit against the Raiders. But ultimately it was actually, that's not even true. It was another one where it was Robbie Gould who missed a field goal on a game-winning drive. So he's had kickers twice miss field goals after he had, and then ultimately Robbie Gould made the winning field goal against the Raiders. But bottom line is, with Moody, he missed the 2 against Cleveland, 2 field goals, and he missed a field goal against the Vikings. And he had another perfect stretch all the way down to the Rams game. And he missed a under 40-yard field goal and a PAT. And the thing is during both the perfect stretches, I'll use air quotes, because the first one, they weren't looking good. There was a lot that were just, hooking, and they were just, barely squeaking in. And same thing in the second stretch. And then in the second stretch, in addition to that, there were at least a few where they were like 55, 60 plus yarders, which he's got the leg for, We just punted instead of going for the field goal. And so that's why I say perfect with a, air quote.
Right. Yeah.
So, one thing that might have helped him was, after he missed the field goal in PAT against the Rams, we were driving the ball at the end of the game to have a game-winning drive against the Rams, and then Darnold fumbled it. And so Moody didn't get a chance to kick the game-winning field goal. But he did kick one against the Packers when we were tied to give us a 3-point, or we were down by 7 to make us down by 4, so that Purdy's last drive, instead of a tying drive, it was a game-winning drive. So hopefully that gave him some confidence. But I don't know. Sounds like us with Moody and you with, is it Badgley, Michael Badgley?
Yeah.
Not a lot of confidence if you got to put him in to win the game.
I go back and forth with Badgley. He wasn't even the actual kicker to start the season. It was Riley Patterson for a while. And then he missed a lot of kicks in a row, and the Lions were like, we're going back to Badgley from the practice squad. And since Badgley's come up, I think he's been perfect on the year. He hit a 54-yarder versus the Rams that would eventually be the game-winning field goal. It wasn't at the end, but it put them up to 24, which ended up they winning by 1. So, I mean, realistically, that was the play that won them the game, essentially. He's been pretty good. He had some stretches last year where he wasn't very good, but I got faith in the Money Badger. I think he's going to be fine.
The Money Badger. I haven't heard that one. I like that. That's cute.
Yeah.
I was just rattling through some of the chats here. Brent was saying that he remembers John Brody. Wow, Brent, you must be an old fart, because I'm pretty old. I'm 53 and I don't even remember John Brody. I started being a Niners fan in 76, and that was when Plunkett was the quarterback. So it must have been a couple years later than Brent. We got Randy Elite Daytona in the house saying, hey, Ted. The elite comes from, he said Brock Purdy was elite early on. I've been very careful not to say that Brock Purdy is an elite quarterback. He's definitely had some elite stretches of play. I just wanted to see more and less variability in between when it's not elite. But I've been close. I've been very close, just not quite there yet. He says Raiders, Cleveland, and Packers. Yeah, I mentioned those. Yes, or the comeback, the game-winning drives. He said comeback against the Rams too. It's a little tougher against the Rams. That was week 2 here of 2023. We were down 7 or 10 points in the first half, and we tied it up going into the half. So most people don't count halftime
comebacks,
Randy. But if you want, technically it was a comeback against. We were trailing at least against the Rams, which is pretty unusual this year. I mean, all our victories before the Packers were by 10 or more points this year. Tended to either just blow people out or get in close games and lose. So that's why I told the Packers fans last week. I was like, if it's a close game, I like the Packers because we don't win games like that. But
yeah,
we finally did.
Yeah. No, the Lions, they had their stretch. They were, I think, from week 3 to 7, they won 5 straight by 14, and then they lost a couple and had a couple close ones. And for the most part, they do pretty well. For the most part, their margin of victory, I think, is 8 or 10 points or something like that. They win pretty convincingly most of the time. But that's the one thing they've been quite good at, actually, is those close games when it comes down to it. They had the game-winning pick on the last play in Minnesota. They had, I don't care what people say, they won in Dallas. That trick play was sweet, and he was totally eligible, and Brad Allen sucks. But they've had a couple close games down the stretch where they've needed a play at the end. They've needed a defensive stop. They needed a big touchdown, and they've been able to do it. So it sounds like that could potentially be the difference if it is a close game, that the Lions have experience winning those games, and the 49ers sounds like maybe don't have as much experience winning those games. No,
I would agree 100% on that. Other than just we got a little bit against the Packers, maybe it's stuck. I don't know, but I always say don't bet your rent money. When I don't feel confident about something, so I would say don't bet your rent money on the Niners winning a close game. We just typically don't. Kyle kind of clutches his pearls and calls games differently when they're close or we're behind.
Yeah.
Randy says, in my opinion, getting mad for a kicker missing a kick is like getting mad at a basketball player missing a free throw. Yeah, but like good kickers, the elite kickers, it's like when Steph Curry misses a free throw.
Right.
And like the Money Badger and
Yeah.
Moody, it's like when Shaquille O'Neal misses a free throw, which is like every other freaking time.
Yeah.
So that'd be my analogy there, Randy. Oh my. There's something else I was going to mention, but not fell out of my head. So maybe it'll come back. But I do get mad. I get mad at them when they miss. It's like this is all they do. They're not even real football players.
Job, yeah.
All they do is kick the damn ball, kick it through, do it. No excuses. Make it happen. Win the game. How big of a raise will Purdy get this offseason? I'm sure he deserves more than he is. Yeah, I mean, he's making $800K. So, yeah, he definitely deserves a raise.
Poor guy.
And I can tell you with 100% certainty he will not get a raise this offseason because he can't. Mm-hmm. We literally cannot give him a raise until after the 2024 season. So, which is good for us, not just because of the money, but also gives us more time, because that's my thing I've been saying about Purdy all year is like, yeah, he's really, really, because there's this whole thing of like Mr. Right now versus Mr. Right. Right. And like, clearly he's the right guy right now. He's the best we've had, yada, yada, yada. Fine. But is he the right guy when you're paying him? Let's face it, it's gonna be like $60 million a year next.
Yeah, it's gonna be like 50 probably.
50, 60 million a year. Is he the right guy with that kind of paycheck? When you lose Debo, when you lose Kittle, you lose Fred, you lose Trent Williams, all these really high paid players that we have. I don't know. That's a tougher question, especially with this whole rain question again, So I don't know how much he'll make eventually, but it will not happen this offseason.
Probably a lot eventually. A couple of years down the road, he's going to be making a lot of money.
I think so, yeah. And we're like, I know one thing the 49ers are doing is like all their like sponsors are like, we're pumping them into all their ads, like the Toyota ads and all this stuff. You see, it's trying to get them some money on the side because it's not easy to survive in the Bay Area on $800K salary. I mean, you can, but it's hard. You can if like you already own your house, but if you're like trying to like break in, it's difficult in the Bay Area with all the startup and IPO money essentially that's flowing around here. Real estate's out of control. Has CB now made itself a bigger priority than O-line? If you mean in the draft in 2024, I still think our first round pick will be a tackle. Trent Williams did say he'll come back and play in 2024, but I mean, I think that's probably it. He said it was to break some record. And so assumably when he breaks it, he's out. And so we really need someone in place when Trent Williams leaves.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think? I mean, do you want to answer for us what you think our higher priority is?
I mean, I trust your opinion a lot more than mine. I know the 49ers roster, I think, pretty well, but you have a lot more background information than me.
No, that's fair.
I mean, replacing a 35-year-old tackler, preparing for a 35-year-old tackle to leave probably isn't the worst idea, considering he's, one of the best in the game. But I don't know. I mean, it's your area of expertise.
There you go. Randy says, extend Brock, franchise tag him later. I think the franchise tag doesn't. Can you do it after an extension? I thought it had to be before the extension. You had to franchise tag at the end of the rookie deal.
I'm trying to figure out what he's trying to say, because like you'd franchise tag if you couldn't get the extension.
Right. If you couldn't agree on terms, then
that's like the whole point. So I guess like if at the end of the second contract, then maybe, but
even then you're talking 40+ mil a year, right?
Right.
By then,
yeah.
Maybe 45 by then.
Yeah.
It's not cheap. It's not cheap, folks. I worked for a talent agency, so I'm not surprised. There you go. Weren't down by much to Rams, but I get it. Not true, Ted. Moody missed 1 XB and 4 field goals. He was awesome this year. Robbie Gould and Justin Tucker, their rookie year. So the extra point was against the Rams. and a field goal against the Rams. That leaves 3. Yeah, 1 against the Vikings and 2 against the Browns. That's exactly what I said. So, no, and I get it. The problem with Moody is not how he did this year. The problem with Moody is that we used a 3rd-round pick on him, and Justin Tucker was an undrafted free agent, so the expectations were low for Justin Tucker.
Expectations.
I don't think the Ravens were a Super Bowl contender that year either. I'm guessing. So,
I mean, they're always kind of Super Bowl contenders.
kind of.
Ravens have been good pretty much as long as I've been alive.
Well, but so. Justin Tucker, was he before Lamar though?
Yeah, Justin Tucker was there in like 2012.
Oh, well, then they were contenders. Obviously, they won the Super Bowl in 2012.
Yeah, they, I think they won it his rookie year.
If the Lions make it through, obviously it's your first time making it to the Super Bowl, which is a huge story.
That would be pretty fun.
The Niners make it through. It's guaranteed, not revenge, but potential for revenge, because Ravens beat us after the 2012 season in the Super Bowl, and Chiefs beat us after the 2019 season in the Super Bowl. So I personally would much rather get it against the Chiefs, because it was Mahomes, and Flacco's gone. Well, he's still lingering, but he's not in the playoffs anymore.
Right.
I was when he was playing well for the Browns, I was like, oh God, what if we lose to Flacco again in the Super Bowl? That would be I can't even imagine.
Not good.
So bad. So Randy's busy here. He says, "Are you in a dorm? You lucky bastard, get out here and hit on girl." Okay. All right. Easy there, old timer. Randy's an old fart like me. So should we sign Tristan Wirfs and have him play right tackle for 1 year, or would we break him?
Can you afford
is he a free agent?
I don't know, but if he is, he's gonna be real expensive. Like,
yeah.
He's gonna cost a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, Trent Williams would have to be gone for that, I think.
Yeah.
Unless somehow we restructured someone's money to go into dead years following, where we're just kind of starting the clock on your own destruction, essentially.
I don't see him leaving Tampa either. I don't think Tampa's going to let him go.
Yeah, and he has moved to left tackle, and he's doing well there, so I doubt he wants to go back to right tackle to wait to move over to left tackle when Trent Williams leaves. But if we could get him, I'd be down. I mean, obviously, Tristan Wirfs is amazing. We could have had him in that draft. Instead, we gave the pick to the Bucks, and we traded a spot back and drafted Javon Kinlaw instead.
Yeah.
Brutal. I have no clue about franchise. Okay. There you go. Yeah. I think you can franchise tag people that are veterans too.
You can. You can franchise tag anybody.
Okay, so you could sign them and then tag them later if you needed to, I guess. But I think the signing him in the initial time is going to be the tough thing. I don't get it. Kyle said he was only drafting one starter last time he drafted, and it was Moody. Yeah, well, that's true. Nobody from our draft has been a starter. Well, Jair Brown, but that's only because of Hufanga's injury. So, yeah, no, Moody was the only one we planned to start from our 2024 draft. It was early 4th. Well, it was a comp 3rd, which is an early 4th, very early 4th. Yeah,
he was automatic in college. Michigan was a different Moody. That guy was good.
He seems to have lost his confidence. Armstead going would help. That's 17 mil a year, and Juice is 5, so that's 22. That's part of Wirfs, but Wirfs is going to be like.
Wirfs is probably going to be like 30 plus, I would assume.
I would guess for a real young offensive tackle. I mean, Trent Williams is 23, and there have been a few that have gone like 24 or 25-ish. Yeah, I'd say 27, 28 for Wirfs, probably somewhere in that. I don't know about 30 plus. 30 plus is a lot.
I don't know. We're having the Penei Sewell conversation right now in Detroit, and I mean, he's 23 years old and an All-Pro, and people are talking like 40 million a year.
What?
So, yeah. Oh, yeah.
You gotta let him go. You can't have a 40 million.
I don't think so. I would keep him still, honestly.
Jeez, 40 mil.
That guy is, yeah.
I guess if quarterbacks are 60, then
We'll
you
see.
know,
Well,
right? It's like what, throw ball, chase guy who throw a ball, protect guy who throw a ball, right? That's the pecking order. So, interesting.
Yeah. Trying to see.
Tampa won't move on from Baker. I don't know. Baker's playing well.
Laramie Tunsil's cap hit's about 30 right now. Yeah.
But not cap. I mean AAV.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Well, his AAV is about 32
on a 2-3 year deal, not a 5-year deal.
3-year deal.
Yeah, 3. Yeah, that's the lower the shorter the deal, the bigger the numbers. Potentially. I mean, you never know until someone does something different. But that's surprising too. Just even for 3 years that he's over 30. That's Then Wirfs would have to be over 30 because I think Wirfs is better than Tunsil. Or same conversation at the very least. Yeah, the goalposts are farther apart in college. It's narrower in the NFL, that's for sure. And also, you do they get to kick down the middle in college, and you got the hash marks in the NFL? Is that how it works? Or
I think so. Yeah,
something like that. Interesting. Niners cap space next year. I think we're like 42 million over the cap for 2024, but we I think we saved like 38 this year or something crazy like that. We definitely planned ahead, and we had a huge surplus for 2023. So I think we're all right. I think with some minor moves we'll be fine for 2024. Again, with Purdy only making $800K, it helps a lot. And like Randy said, I guess Armstead comes off next year. I thought it was the year after. I thought Armstead came off in 2025, but we'll see. We got to sign Ayuk though. That's the big one.
Yeah.
What else should we talk about regarding the game? Do you have a prediction for the game?
I do have a prediction for the game. I fully admit biasly, I think the Lions are going to win a close one. I've talked about this for every game the Lions have played this offseason, or postseason. There's two different ways that the game goes for the Lions. Typically, it's either that they get the ball first and they score. And I think when they score a touchdown first, they're 8-0 in games. I know they're undefeated. I think they're 8-0, but they might be 9-0. When they score a touchdown first, they are a very different team than if the other team goes ahead by 7-10 points. So I think either the Lions are going to get the ball and they're going to go down and score, and they're going to kind of take the driver's seat early and be able to play their brand of football where they can be creative and they can run the ball really well and they can lean on Jameer and David and that offensive line. Or the 49ers are going to get the ball and they're going to score first, and then the Lions are going to turn the ball over or make a mistake, even punt on the ensuing drive. The Niners go up by 10, and the Lions are playing catch-up ball the whole time, where they are just a very different team. When that running attack's not there, when the play action isn't there, they're a super different football team. So, and I said that about the Rams. I thought if the Rams could go up early, they would win that game, and they didn't. I said the same thing about Tampa Bay. If they scored early and they got a takeaway early, they would win the game. And I think the same thing's true for the Niners. I think if they go up early, if they get a pick on that second drive and kind of flip the script really early, I think that they're going to have a good opportunity. But I think the longer they let Detroit hang around, the more that Detroit plays with a lead, the more they're going to lean on Jameer, the more they're going to lean on David, the more they're going to run right behind Penei Sewell. And it'll be tougher. The longer they're in the game, the harder they are to beat.
Interesting. Well, then the coin flip's going to be really interesting. So you think if the Lions win the coin flip that you'll take the ball then?
I would put my life savings on if they win the coin toss, they'll take the ball.
Interesting. So then, I mean, that's interesting because unless Kyle is watching this and is scared by what you're saying, Lions will probably start with the ball in the game because Kyle loves to defer to the second half. It's funny that some people were talking about it for the Packers game, and I was like, guys, the Packers won the toss, man.
Mhm.
Kyle didn't do anything. The Packers won the ball. I thought it was interesting that both the Packers and the Texans both took the ball, the opening kicks, and they both lost on the road doing so.
Yeah. But I know the Lions in the wild card and the divisional, they won both coin tosses and they took the ball both times.
Smart.
So they like playing from ahead. They like the lead that they got. So if they can do it, Dan Campbell's going to try to get ahead early.
Yeah, Kyle likes to get the last possession of the second half, first half, and then the first possession of the second half to try and double up.
Yeah,
with that turnaround there. So yeah, that's interesting for sure. I wonder what will happen as far as that goes, or if Kyle wises up and puts our offense on the field first. Seems like that might be the smart move. Brent DeWitt says Lions 34-31. My prediction was 31-24 Niners. You sound like we're like similar teams as far as the Niners. I said we're front runners. We don't do well if it's tied or we're losing. Sounds like similar type situations.
Yeah.
So that early scoring will be key to see what happens. But I think it takes more than one score to get us out of what we're doing. I think you got to be like 14 or 17 points up before you just like only throw and no more passing. Yeah, and can you guys stop our run game? If you can't, it'll be a long day, but it is stoppable. As great as McCaffrey was this season, there was a lot of like really big games and some games where he didn't get a lot. So
and the Lions, like I was
a lot
saying,
of bad teams out there, basically.
Yeah, they got a top defense. I was doing research for my video. They haven't allowed a 100-yard rusher since 2022, all the way back in like week 14 or 15. So it's been well over a calendar year since they've allowed a single player to rush for 100 yards. And then this year, they've only allowed 5 teams to rush for 100 yards on the game. So in their 19 games, 5 teams have rushed for 100 yards on the day. And they've only allowed 1 rushing touchdown in the last 6 games, which has kind of been their identity and their philosophy.
I think we went back to 2021 without a 100-yard rusher prior to this Packers game. So
that's pretty crazy.
That is crazy. But again, a lot of that is not necessarily run D. A lot of it is
playing from ahead,
front running, big lead, and no chance to run. So.
But it's been Aaron Glenn's identity to say, we're not very good against the pass. Like your wide receiver 1 is going to go for 100 yards and a touchdown. That is a guarantee. Like if I were to place 2 bets on the Lions game, it would be that the Lions take the ball on the first drive and Brandon Ayuk goes for 100 plus. Like those are the 2 things I would cash immediately. But in the same vein, they've allowed 1 rushing touchdown in the last 6 games. And I think if you force every quarterback you play to have to throw 4 to 5 touchdowns to tie or win the game, you're going to win a lot of football games. And that has been kind of what the Lions have been able to do. They made Baker throw. He threw 3 touchdowns, but they kept the Buccaneers rushing attack out of the end zone. So they only put up 23 points. They kept the Rams to 23 because they couldn't rush the ball. That's kind of been their identity is, we might give up a lot of yards. Your wide receiver 1 might go for 150 and a touchdown, but that's still just 7 points on the board. So I think, again, if they can do that with McCaffrey, if they can even just keep him out of the end zone, again, I don't think that it's because Brock Purdy can't throw 4 touchdowns in a game. I know actually very well that he can throw 4 touchdowns, and I've seen it a couple different times. But I think if you ask any quarterback in the league that they have to throw 4 touchdowns to have a chance at winning, it's a lot of pressure, and most quarterbacks won't be up to it most weeks.
I agree 100%. Brent DeWitt says should be a fun game to watch. I agree. Both teams have 1 touch. Take it to the house players. Can't wait. No, it should be exciting. I think it'll be a really close game. I think it'll be well fought, and sounds like that doesn't favor either of us. So again, kind of more of a coin flip. And Niners are a completely different animal. I think I trust honestly Brock Purdy a little bit more at the end of the game than Jared Goff.
That's fair.
Keep in mind that Jared Goff's whole, existence against us was mostly with the Rams, other than that one game to start the 2021 season. So, not behind a great O-line, what the Lions have. And if you protect Jared Goff, he can hurt you. He's a really solid quarterback, and most of his trouble comes from when he's pressured a lot, and this O-line doesn't give up much pressure. So I think that bodes well for the Lions.
Mm-hmm. This is a true statement. This is factually correct. Yeah, the Lions didn't have the toughest matchups at the end. I mean, Minnesota had 7 wins, Chicago had 7 wins, Dallas was the 2 seed, Denver had 8 wins. So I mean, they weren't like bottom feeder teams.
Denver was hot though.
Denver was hot. Denver was 7-1 coming into Detroit on Saturday.
Denver was hot.
So Denver was super hot. Dallas was
Vikings
really good.
and Chicago are divisional opponents.
Dallas was
always
tricky. Averaging 40 points a game at home when the Lions came in, and the Lions allowed 20, which was, I mean, obviously really good. But yeah, but I think
he said this too. He said a deep dive into the numbers, and besides Amon-Ra, it's not really impressive. No disrespect, but
that's okay.
Stats can be misleading. I always say stats without context can be misleading.
Yeah.
And so that's why we like to do these shows, is to get that context, the explanation, the emotion. How do you really feel? Like, here's the numbers, great, but what does it mean to you as a very educated Lions fan? And that's why I love having people like Anthony on the show.
So, I mean, Amon-Ra is obviously phenomenal. He's a top wide receiver in the NFL. And we don't have a real wide receiver too. Like Jameson Williams is a role player. Like Josh Reynolds is a role player. But our second wide receiver is Sam Laporta. He had, I think, 900 receptions, 900 receiving yards this year, 10, 11 touchdowns. Like he is the wide receiver too on that offense. Plus you had 2 guys in David and Gibbs that went for 1,000 scrimmage yards each. Like, you are correct that there isn't a wide receiver too, but Laporta is the wide receiver too. And then obviously you have 2 1,000-yard backs behind it, the top offensive line in football. So, I mean, Jared Goff was the second leading passer in the NFL for a reason. It's because we got some good weapons, and Ben Johnson's quite good at what he does.
And Reynolds has been playing like a second wide receiver 1 in the playoffs.
Yeah, Josh Reynolds in the playoffs has been pretty good as well. Yeah.
So
for sure.
Gave up 3 to Baker. Yikes. Well, it's not just Baker. It's Mike Evans. It's Godwin. Otten's been playing well. Mm-hmm. And Rashad White is a hell of a back. So they don't run it well, but he's still a very talented back.
I mean, he had 1,000 rushing yards this year. I mean, he's no slouch. I mean, he's pretty solid. Yeah.
Yeah. They just don't have anybody else. And,
I personally disagree. I mean, Chicago at Chicago in the winter is not an easy matchup. I mean, going into Minnesota is not easy. Dallas was actually really hot when they played Detroit, as was Denver. Like, I mean, I'll agree. It was not like this gauntlet of a schedule at the end, but also they didn't play a team with less than 7 wins, and 3 of those games were on the road. So it's not like they, rolled into the playoffs easy peasy. Totally get it. All opinions. I can't hear you.
Yeah. I said, it's all just opinions, but some people are more educated in their opinions and actually watch the games and watch tape and listen to other people who watch games and watch tape and, and know how to put a weight on those different inputs rather than like, oh, Baldy said it. It must be true, blah, 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 or, whatever the case may be. Some people just get all their info from one guy and they're like, oh, that's the gospel. I'm like, okay, good. Enjoy yourself with that. Mm-hmm. But I like to listen to a lot of really smart people and then kind of congeal it all down and like make my own decision. Opinion, whatever you want to call it. Porter has more than 5 targets 4 times.
Porter?
Who's Porter? He means Laporta.
Oh, I was like, we don't have a Porter.
Yeah, there it is, Laporta.
I got you. No, Sam Laporta is real good. And he's been injured the last 2 weeks and still was putting up numbers. So
no, he's one of the best tight ends in football already as a rookie. It's crazy. What he's done is nothing short of incredible.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
It's just
one of my boys.
One Pride 40. Welcome. So our linebackers are dominant, no doubt, but Drake can get us into trouble. He's a little hot-headed, and he can get roughing penalties, face mask penalties. He can not go down when he makes a game-winning interception and running like 40, 50 yards around the field, risking the ball for no damn reason. Yeah. I love him. He's great. He's an enforcer. He's a thumper. He's perfect match with Fred, but he does get injured quite a bit, though, I will say about Dre. So hopefully he's okay. Packers got the same late schedule confidence boost. The Packers, they almost beat us, Randy.
I was gonna say the Packers came in and they upset the 2 seed and then were within 1 score of the Niners. So
they almost beat us.
Yeah,
there's a lot of us who woke up Sunday morning going, "How the hell did we win? How the hell did we pull that one off?"
Because Jordan Love did his best Brett Favre impression on that last drive and was throwing crossbody in the rain into triple coverage.
Yeah. And also after Brock's game-winning drive, freaking sky opened up, man. It's like stopped raining for like the last big section of the game. Purdy scores the go-ahead touchdown. All of a sudden, the sky opens up, and it's like, okay, Jordan, go have fun in that. It kind of reminded me of the much publicized Trey Lance rain game against the Bears, where it was a monsoon in Chicago week 1. And, both teams were struggling. It was constant rain, the wet ball the whole game. But then somehow, like the Bears scored and they took the lead, and then it's like, okay, Trey Lance, go ahead and throw to win the game. And the skies literally open up way worse than what happened to Jordan Love. And like the puddles on the field, like 2-3 inches deep, like you couldn't see the numbers on the field. So they blacked them out instead of using the white chalk. They had reversed the polarity to make them black so you could actually see them through the puddles. I'd never seen anything like it in a football game. People are like, "Oh, it rained the same the whole game, Ted." And I'm like, no. It was once they said Lance go win the game, like there was no way anyone was going to pass either direction at that point in the game. It was over. Like it was like Noah and biblical. But sorry, that was a long rant.
You're all good.
So Brent says, who's going to call up Lions offensive depth? Colby?
I do not think Colby Sorsdale will play unless there's an injury. Colby Sorsdale, if you don't know, was the 5th round selection by the Lions this year. It was a right tackle at William and Mary and then transferred to guard for the NFL. He's played a couple of games. I thought he was really good versus the Raiders, but he's more of a right guard, not really so good at left guard. For left guard, it's probably going to be, I said it earlier, Kato Owaski. He's played about 300 snaps for the Lions and gave up 2 sacks. He was good versus the Raiders. He was pretty good. He was okay versus Tampa. Wasn't spectacular, but got the job done versus Vita Vea. So I would assume he's going to be the sub for Jackson as opposed to Colby Sorsdale.
There you go. Jeremy Dietzel Gaming says this game will come down to getting pressure on Goff. 49ers slow down the run game. And how the 49ers slow. Yeah. No,
very true.
Those are keys for us for sure. Both are big question marks in my mind, honestly. Yes, some people are smarter about their choices. It's all about roulette wheel and being smarter about football. It's not guarantee the correct outcome. No, that's obviously true. Yeah, I mean, you can have the best information and something can happen. You can have a bad call. You can have
twist your ankle on the first play.
Injuries.
Yeah.
You can have God like
a bad day
with the rain. Yeah, no doubt about it. Laporta's awesome. He says I want him to as well, maybe is what he said. I don't know.
Yeah.
Outside of Hutch, who scares you on Detroit's defense? Hutch, Aleem McNeil.
Aleem's really
good. I don't know if any of the linebackers scare me, but I guess I understand that the rookie Jack Campbell has come on as of late. I know Anzalone is solid. And CJ Gardner-Johnson scares me for sure. I got to say it. Kirby Joseph scares me.
Go for it. Yeah.
But Kittle, for his knees.
I would be scared to play Kirby Joseph too. I mean,
yeah. Let's just hope none of that happens for both sides. I don't want to see anybody get in. No injuries, no refs. Good competitive game. We can all root for that, even if we
Yeah.
can't root for each other's teams, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Who else on defense? I don't know. I guess if Fianu, the guy's safety, sounds like he's playing really well. So
He's been playing really well for.
And then I guess Houston, right? Ash was telling me about Houston. If his high wire ankle repair surgery is taken and he's ready to come in he said he had Von Miller like bend, and yeah, I mean like 8 sacks in 7 games or something like that. Back you said in 2021 or 2020.
22. Yeah,
22.
He was a rookie with Hutch. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, no, that would be a concern for me if you guys had a bookend for Hutchinson for sure. CS Sports says Lions are winning.
Yeah, they are.
There you go. You heard it here first. That's not my prediction, but
we predict different things.
No, that's fine. We're supposed to. What do you guys think about all the hate towards Brock Purdy and how he played in the playoffs when his counterpart actually threw 2 interceptions and lost? Here's what I think. I'll jump in on this.
Yeah, go for it.
I think that the hate comes from the fact that Purdy threw at least 2 interceptable passes that were dropped. And so if they had caught him, we would have lost that game. So that's why. I mean, like, I'm one of these big interceptable balls people. Like early in the season, there was a point where Purdy had thrown 4 interceptable balls and had 0 picks. And at that same point in the season, I can remember quite a few from the list. Another one that was notable was Josh. Was it Gibb? What's the guy's name from the Cardinals who was all over Browns, Cards, Vikings, Josh Dobbs. He had 8 interceptable balls and 0 picks at that point. And good old buddy, he's blanking on everybody's name right now. From the Patriots, Mac Jones. Mac had 14 interceptable balls and only 4 picks. And then you look at some poor bastard, and it pains me to say it because he's a division rival, or what? Yeah, is a division rival. Stafford had only thrown 3 interceptable balls, so 1 less than Purdy. And instead of 0 picks like Purdy, he had 5 picks. So you're like, dude, that's going to even out over time. Stafford is going to end up having a better season than what it looked like early in the season, and Purdy is going to fall back to earth. And sure enough, against the Ravens, we saw it. Purdy had 3 balls tipped and 3 were intercepted. And that's insane because tip balls are typically only intercepted at like a 3-4% rate. So to have 3 out of 3 or whatever it was, maybe there were 4 tipped, but it was
it evened out.
Have 3 tipped and intercepted in the same game. This is unheard of. Yeah. And so it's just this is the way it is with statistical stuff, with stats. Like, that's why I say they could be misleading without the context. And so, and that's why I don't really fear the Ravens if we play them again, because I doubt they'll get 3 tip balls, and I certainly doubt they'll get 3 interceptions off of them again.
Right.
There was one that he threw that was bad, and I think we can live with an interception a game from Purdy. That's when he starts to throw 2 or 3. And so, anyway, that's a long thing there, but yeah, I mean, so then again, to see 2-3 more interceptable balls. Now, one of them, he was wearing the glove, right? And that, for me, when I saw Brock Purdy wearing a glove, I'm like, there's my, we're waving the white flag to this whole like, oh, Purdy's not a fair weather QB thing. Like, that's saying I'm a fair weather QB. I have to wear a glove when it's wet. And I noticed that he threw the ball with good zip, and it was a great spiral. It's just it didn't go where he wanted it to. And I think what it is when you get grip on a ball with a glove, you get the grip, but then you don't ungrip it when you're ready to. There's no
release is different.
Where it goes, it like hooks or whatever. And so, the bottom line is that the media, I think, is being a little overly harsh of Brock, especially you'll see in dry weather. He just won't look nearly as bad as he did Green Bay, Cleveland, and first half of the Seattle Seahawks game, wild card last playoffs in 2022 playoffs. So it's a bad news for the Lions fans.
Yeah, well, it's all right.
I mean, it might be our only chance, honestly, in this game. I think if it was raining, I think we probably would lose.
I wouldn't bet on it. Golf's not the best in the rain either.
That's right. You were saying that. So maybe, again, one more parallel between our teams.
It would even. I think the Niners and the Lions are very similar in a lot of ways.
So let's see here. So, I'm getting kind of far behind here, I guess, huh? Really far. Let's see. So Randy said almost only counts as horseshoes in hand. So yes and no. I mean, like I said, even with Moody, the almost misses, I had a feeling he was going to have some misses.
They're going to miss eventually, right? Yeah.
Exactly. It's the same type thing in reverse. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. No, it's the same idea. Yeah. It was dropped interceptions or like field goals that just barely go in. Eventually they're going to miss.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually those defenders are going to hold on to some of those.
Eventually somebody's going to catch it.
Yeah. Still remember Mel Kiper. Hate when you broke on the scene. I put Sam Laporta number 2 tight end this year under Kittle. Very good player. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I could see Laporta. Yeah, anywhere in the top 2 or 3. I think Kelsey's right in there. I think Mark Andrews, when he's healthy, is in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty much it, right?
Yeah. Probably Kittle, Kelsey, Andrews, and Laporta are probably the top 4.
Yeah. I think so too. I was only wrong about the 2 games. Trevor. Yeah. Randy, he predicted the loss for us against the Browns, the Vikings, and the Bengals. Mm-hmm. And then he just took it 1 game too far. He said we'd lose to the Jags as well. But obviously we beat them 34-3. So that's a pretty bad one to be wrong on there.
Yeah.
Steve Supremo in the house. Welcome, Steve. Says, I watched the fans chant Goss names about 10 times yesterday.
Yeah, it's pretty surreal.
That's cool. Good.
Honestly, it was such
Detroit fans are excited, and they should be. They have every reason to be excited and confident. It's funny because there was something a little annoying last week. Let me just share this with you.
Mm-hmm.
That I was going back and forth with Packers fans. Okay, I expect that the week before the game, but then some Lions fans were coming and going, "Hey, we're going to beat you next week." I'm like, "Dude, go beat the Bucks first."
No,
I'm not wasting my top banter on a team that I thought I picked you guys to win, and I was picking you as of then, but I didn't think it was like a stone cold lock or anything. And as the game played out, like you can see why, right? I mean, anyway, I just thought it was pretty funny that come on, you guys.
I think some Lions fans are definitely getting a little too big for
their britches.
So yeah,
it's gonna happen, and you guys should be excited. It's great. I'm happy for you guys. I liked your coach right from the giddy up, Dan Campbell. I liked his energy. He just seemed like a tough football guy. And
definitely.
It seems to have worked really well. So
yeah,
good on you. And obviously great picks this year with, Laporta and all of them, right? I mean, they're like 4.
Campbell, the top 4.
Campbell, and then obviously Jahmyr Gibbs, who everybody panned because he wasn't Bijan Robinson.
Super stupid.
And boy, he's really turned out to be really well. Well. Who do you think Brian Branch will be shadowing in the slot? It's usually going to be Juwan Jennings, right? Because you got Debo and Ayuk at the boundaries, Kittle in line. The one thing that's funny about Kyle is he loves to run 21 personnel and then against your base package, and then get one of your linebackers locked up with juice check or ideally CMC, and then split them out into the slot when Branch wouldn't even be on the field yet as a nickel, and then get them in space and away from friendlies where it's a total mismatch. And so that's one thing Kyle really likes to do. Hutch is really good, 11.5 mid-tier, 5 sacks in the last 2 games. Yeah, he's coming on strong.
True. However, I will add that Aiden Hutchinson had 110 pressures this year, which he's like the 4th player ever to have 100 solo pressures plus. So he didn't finish very early in the season, but he's been quite productive all year. I mean, he's up there with the elite guys when it comes to pressures, and he's pretty good.
Says I see that those ints were dropped for the same reason they were bad throws. The ball was wet. Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, yeah.
Fair. That makes sense. I can't argue that.
Defender's not ready for it.
People are still slurping his drink, and there's no such thing as an almost. Okay.
There's a lot of almost interceptions.
Yeah, I agree. But Randy, love. You know, it was a tale of two halves for Love. You know, he was great in the first half, and he struggled in the second half.
Yeah.
Partially, I think, because we got our cleats figured out.
Potentially.
Yeah. I mean, he's young. He's a great QB. I was really impressed by Love. So
yeah, I'm not excited to play Love next year. He's figuring it out.
He is, no doubt about it. And those young weapons are just going to keep getting better and better.
Mm-hmm.
Glove was not Brock's idea. I just found out Brock has the same size hands. And Patrick Mahomes has 9.25-inch hands too. Mm-hmm. I think part of it is not just the overall hand size as like the ratio between finger to palm, because I know I have like really, really big hands, but I have like huge palms and not really long fingers. And so like I could palm a football, but palming a basketball, I could kind of do it, but not like wave it around. I could do it standing still, but I couldn't like wave it from someone's face and then pull it back away from them or anything like that. So
yeah,
I think that's part of it too. It's not just the absolute size, and then there's a strength, and who knows, maybe Purdy can learn to be better in the rain. I'm not saying he can't, but as of now, until I see it, he is a fair weather quarterback to me. No more rain the rest of the way. That's right. I mean, at least as of now, the forecast says no rain at Levi's on Sunday. That could change. But it doesn't look like it. Like last week, when we were going back and forth between rain, no rain, it was like there was rain on Friday, clear on Saturday for the game, rain on Sunday. And then I'm like going, man, if the Friday rain comes early or the Friday rain lingers late or the Sunday rain comes early, we can get rain, and we sure did. So this looks completely clear till next Wednesday. So I'd say it's unlikely. But again, you never know this time of year. You say Moody is just going to miss it. As accurate as me saying he's never going to miss again. No, Moody's going to miss.
Yeah.
Everyone misses, even just
one's going to happen and one will not happen.
Yeah. Just don't know. We don't know when, but yeah, we do.
But it will happen.
Yeah, that he will miss. One big reason why we lost the game is because Kyle. Yeah, CMC. Yeah, no. I think he 14 touches. Yeah, and we had Purdy throwing the ball 39 times. That is not a recipe for success for the 49ers. If the Lions can do that to us, they got a damn good shot to win it, I would say. This was against the Ravens. Okay, same thing. We should have ran it more against the Ravens because he was getting 7.4 yards a carry. You should let him carry it more. Don't forget Kyle plays chess, and we wrapped up the playoffs. I don't think Kyle wanted to give it. Yeah, I think there's part of it. I think part of it was just some bad luck. Well, welcome back, Randy. I missed you. You're one of my definite regulars, so glad to have you. Wickets. No, I was not much of a pitcher. Absolutely not. Says 40% Saturday. California usually gets pushed off another day or two ahead. I didn't see anything. I just checked I go off Apple Weather on my phone. I've tried the AccuWeather website that has like the advanced hourly forecasts, and I find that they're very inaccurate. I usually wait until 24 hours before the game, and then I look on my phone and see when I really want to know what it's going to be like. But I'm not seeing any rain anywhere in NorCal. That was good, but the biggest moment of his career, he throws the ball into triple coverage. That's something Packers fans will think about all offseason. Yeah, I'm sure. But like, he's a young guy. He'll figure it out.
Yeah.
I have zero doubts. Just sucks. Now he's lumped in there with Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
As far as like Aaron was 0-4 against us. Now Love's 0-1. You know, you'd much rather be in the Brett Favre group that was 4-1 against us.
Yeah.
In the playoffs, because he owned us in the 90s. It was brutal. We could do this all day with the chats, but I mean, we've been going for almost an hour and a half here. I'm sure you got better things to do than hang out with some old fart on YouTube. So Just like Randy was saying, maybe, well, I won't repeat what he said. Enjoy your college time, right? Where are you in school?
I go to Adrian College up in Michigan. It's towards like the southern, closer to Ohio, really, like kind of near that border of Michigan and Ohio.
Right on.
Yeah, I'm a junior, second semester, working on graduating.
Well, that's good. I mean, it took me a long time, but I finally got my degree. I got an econ degree from Santa Clara University, and
Nice.
yeah. Well, any final thoughts? Anything you want to promote? Anything you got going on coming up that you want to talk about?
Not a whole lot. I mean, obviously the NFC Championship's coming up. I got a big video coming out tomorrow talking about both sides a lot more, I mean, in depth and just other stuff that I had noticed too. So I mean, if your followers want to go check that out, that'll be out about 5 o'clock tomorrow. It's about 20 minutes of just kind of going back and forth about the strengths of both teams, the weaknesses of both teams, the matchups for both teams. I do an in-depth thing pretty much every single week about the Lions opponent, who they're going to play, and how the Lions can win, how the opponent can win. I try to keep it as unfair or as fair and unbiased as possible. But, you know, every once in a while, the Lions bias creeps through just a little bit. So if they want to go check that out, that'll be out tomorrow, midday, probably a little closer to dinner time, 5 o'clock-ish Eastern Standard Time. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be out soon. If they enjoy it, go over, subscribe, like the video.
Perfect. Will do. For me, I've got my usual weekly show today at 3:30 Pacific, 6:30 Eastern. It's called First and Ted. And then tomorrow I've got another Lions creator coming on at 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 3:30 Eastern. His name is Chris Robin. So come check us out. I've got my usual weekly Thursday show with Mike and Big Mike from the Man Cave 10. He's a Browns fan, and we do a weekly show called Faithful Dogs. Obviously, I'm the faithful. He's the dogs from the Dog Pound. And then I usually do a weekly show with Bashar from 49er Minded. Fridays at 3. I think we'll be back on. We missed last week because we had a death in the community, and he was very close to one of our audience members, a gal named Laura Cat. So R.I.P. to Laura Cat. Prayers up for her and her family and all of her friends and my friends. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me this week. But Anthony, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. If you decide you'd like to do a follow-up show next week, definitely let's lock it down before the game, ideally.
All right.
Might not be quite as amenable to booking it if we don't win. But I always find it works best, like I said, if we have something locked down before kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it was great meeting you, and you're welcome back anytime.
Right.
And good luck to your Lions, and hopefully better luck next year. But we'll see. I don't think it's a lock that the 49ers win. I'm really intrigued. I think there's some really great matchups, and looking forward to an outstanding football game.
Yeah, me too.
Cool. Let me just get rid of the chat there, and I'll just say peace and go Niners. You want to give us a one pride or true grit?
Pride,
what do you guys saying? The grit? What's the grit thing?
What, all grit?
All grit.
I'm not a fan of that one. I like one pride. I think that's way better.
There you go. Well, peace and go Niners, and
one pride, baby.
There you go. Thanks, everybody.